Please, I don't want to be a burden." The old man's voice trembled as rain pounded the cracked pavement. His silver hair was plastered to his forehead, his worn coat soaked through. He leaned heavily against a streetlight, one hand gripping his chest. Elena stopped her old sedan mid-turn. Through the blurred windshield, she saw him, fragile, struggling, alone. Her 3-year-old daughter, Rosie, was asleep in the back seat, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Elena had just finished her evening shift at Morrison Elementary, where she taught 2nd grade. Her notebook of half-written poems sat on the passenger seat, ink smudged from her own rain-dampened fingers. She rolled down the window. "Sir, are you all right?" He looked up, eyes clouded with pain and something else. Shame, perhaps. I'll manage. Just need a moment." "You need more than a moment," Elena said gently, stepping out into the downpour. "Get in. Let me take you home." I couldn't." "You can. Please." She opened the passenger door, her voice soft but insistent. No one should be alone in weather like this. He hesitated, then nodded. As she helped him into the car, she noticed his hands, elegant despite their tremor. The hands of someone who'd once held authority, now barely able to grip the door handle. "I'm Elena. That's Rosie in the back." "Walter," he whispered. "Walter Ashford." The drive was slow. Walter directed her through winding streets to a modest neighborhood that had seen better days. His home was a small bungalow with peeling paint and an overgrown garden. When they arrived, he sat motionless, staring at the dark windows. "I lost my wife 6 months ago. Cancer. Our son, he hasn't called since the funeral. Says I pushed him away his whole life." His voice cracked. "Maybe I did. I was always working, always absent." Elena's throat tightened. She knew absence. Her own daughter's father had left before Rosie was born, claiming he wasn't ready for responsibility. She'd raised Rosie alone, balancing teaching with late-night poetry writing, her only outlet for the loneliness that sometimes threatened to swallow her whole. "Regret is a heavy thing to carry alone," she said quietly. Walter turned to her, tears mixing with rain on his weathered face. "Why did you stop? I don't know you." "Because someone stopped for me once." No one had. But she wished someone had during those first terrifying months of single motherhood. And because kindness shouldn't need a reason. She helped him inside, made sure he took his heart medication, and left her phone number on his kitchen table. "Call if you need anything. Please." Driving home, Elena felt something shift inside her. That night, she wrote a poem about hands that build walls and hearts that tear them down. 3 days later, a silver Mercedes pulled up outside Morrison Elementary. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out, scanning the parking lot with sharp, impatient eyes. He found Elena loading art supplies into her trunk. "Are you Elena Hartley?" She turned, surprised. "Yes? I'm Heiress Ashford. My father. You helped him." His jaw was tight, his posture rigid. "I need to speak with you." They sat in her classroom, surrounded by crayon drawings and alphabet posters. Harrison looked out of place among the tiny chairs and cheerful chaos. "My father called me yesterday. First time in 7 months." Harrison's voice was controlled, but Elena heard the fracture beneath. "He told me about you, about what you did. I just gave him a ride home." "No." Harrison shook his head. "You gave him something I stopped giving years ago. Attention. Dignity." He paused, staring at a student's drawing of a family. "I blamed him for everything. For missing my baseball games, for working through my mother's illness, for being unavailable." Elena studied him, the expensive watch, the perfectly tailored suit, the exhaustion in his eyes. "What do you do, Harrison?" "Corporate law. Mergers, acquisitions. I'm partner at Caldwell and Ross." He laughed bitterly. I became exactly what I resented. I work 80-hour weeks. I haven't had a real conversation with anyone in months. He looked at her. My father asked me to thank you, but I came because I need to understand. Why help a stranger? Elena thought of Rosie, of the countless times she'd needed help and been too proud to ask. Because we're all one bad day away from being that stranger. Something shifted in Harrison's expression. He's sick. Heart failure. The doctors say maybe 6 months. I didn't know until yesterday. He never told me. He was protecting you, Elena said softly. From guilt, from obligation, from the same burden he's carried his whole life, thinking love has to be earned through sacrifice. Harrison's composure cracked. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to be what he needs. Start by being there. Not the successful son, not the lawyer, just there. Over the following weeks, something unexpected bloomed. Harrison began visiting his father regularly, and Elena often stopped by too, bringing Rosie, whose innocent laughter filled Walter's home with life it hadn't known in years. She'd read her poems aloud and Walter would close his eyes, transported. Harrison would arrive after work, loosening his tie, learning to sit in silence without checking his phone. One evening, Walter had an episode. Elena was there, holding his hand while Harrison frantically called 911. In the hospital waiting room, Harrison finally broke. I wasted so much time, being angry, being right. And now, you're here now, Elena said. That's what matters. Not the years you lost, the days you choose. Harrison looked at her, really looked at her. You're remarkable, you know that. Single mother, full-time teacher, poet, and you still find time to care about broken old men and their estranged sons. Elena smiled sadly. We're all broken. That's what makes us human. Walter recovered, but barely. When he came home, Harrison had renovated the bungalow. Fresh paint, a repaired garden, a room filled with photo albums he'd spent weeks organizing. Memories his father thought he'd thrown away. You kept them, Walter wept, touching pictures of Harrison's childhood. I thought you hated me. I did, Harrison admitted, but I hated myself more, for becoming you, for thinking success meant abandoning everything else. He knelt beside his father's chair. I'm sorry, Dad, for not calling, for not understanding, for not being the son you deserved. You're here now, Harrison. That's all I ever wanted. Just here. 2 months later, Walter passed away peacefully in his sleep, Harrison holding one hand, Elena holding the other. At the funeral, Harrison delivered a eulogy that made everyone weep, about redemption, about second chances, about a kind teacher who reminded him what mattered. Afterwards, he found Elena in the garden where Rosie was picking wildflowers. He left something for you, Harrison said, handing her an envelope. Inside was a check, enough to cover a year's worth of expenses, and a note in Walter's shaky handwriting. For the woman who stopped when the world kept driving. Use this to write your poems, raise your beautiful daughter, and keep teaching others the kindness you showed a foolish old man. You gave me my son back. You gave me peace. Thank you will never be enough. Elena's tears fell onto the paper. I didn't do this for... I know, Harrison said gently. That's exactly why he wanted you to have it. And I have a selfish request. He hesitated. Would you let me be part of your life? Not because of obligation or gratitude, but because you remind me of who I want to be. You and Rosie. You showed me that success isn't what you build, it's who you become in the building. Elena looked at Rosie, then at Harrison. We're a package deal. Messy, chaotic, imperfect. I wouldn't want it any other way. A year later, Elena published her first poetry collection. Harrison had quit corporate law to teach legal ethics at the university. Better hours, better purpose. He and Elena weren't married, but they were partners, in the truest sense. Two people who'd found their way to wholeness through brokenness. One rainy evening, Elena stood at Walter's grave with Rosie and Harrison. The same rain that had brought them together now blessed the earth around Walter's rest.
Rosie looked up, her small voice clear. "Mama, why do you always stop for people in the rain?" Elena knelt down, brushing wet hair from her daughter's face. "Because, sweetheart, sometimes the greatest things in life happen when we simply choose to care." Harrison squeezed her hand, and in that moment, they all understood. Walter's greatest legacy wasn't wealth or status. It was the reminder that one small act of kindness can change everything. That walls built over decades can crumble with a single gesture of grace. That it's never too late to come home. The greatest inheritance we can leave isn't money. It's the example of choosing love over indifference, connection over isolation, presence over perfection. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.